So it's time for Tell Me a Story. Let's get reading The Getaway by Kinney. Friday. The next morning, Dad went out to get another box of popsicles, and he came back with some news. He said they had drained the whole pool to find the jellyfish, and they were just starting to refill it. But it would be 3 days before it was ready to use. I thought it would be smart for us to hide out in the suite for the rest of the trip because people would be looking for the family who ruined everybody else's vacation. But Mom said we weren't going to spend the rest of our time indoors. She told Dad he should take Manny to the pirate play pace. And she told me to see what activities were planned in the tween zone. I didn't really want to go back out there, but I guess it was better than risking another run-in with a spider. Brush, brush, brush. I went down to the tween zone, hoping the activity might be a video game competition or something like that. But the counselor was rounding everyone up to play tennis. At first, I thought about turning around because I wasn't in the mood to get all sweaty. Then I remembered that Rowley plays tennis at his country club, and I thought it might be fun for me to learn so that the two of us could hit some balls around over the summer. The counselor who was organizing the game was named Rodrigo, and he took us over to the tennis courts. I thought Rodrigo was going to stay and teach us how to play, but the second we were all through the gate at the tennis court, he locked it. That's when I realized these activities were just a way to get kids out of their parents' hair for a few hours. The tennis court was a giant cage, and we were basically in prison for the next hour and a half. And we couldn't even play tennis anyway because Rodrigo didn't leave us with any rackets. He did leave us with balls, though. There must have been 300 of them in a basket in the middle of the court. At first, kids started playing catch, but it didn't really take long for it to turn into a giant free-for-all. I took cover by the fence with some other kids who didn't want to get hit in the face with a tennis ball, but all that did was make us targets. So we started fighting back. Somebody figured out how to turn the ball machine on, and we used it to defend ourselves. I'm never on the winning side of this kind of thing. And I gotta say, it was actually a lot of fun. But then everything came to a screeching halt. One of the kids who was in the conga line the day before recognized me and told everybody it was my family's fault. They had to drain the pool. Whack, 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 whack. I explained to everyone that it was all a big accident and that my little brother just wanted a jellyfish as a pet. But I guess these guys were mad about the pool situation, and they were happy to have someone to blame. Bonk, bonk, bonk. I had to get out of there, but the gate was locked, so the only way to go over it was to climb. In phys ed at school, I can't even get up the rock wall they have in the gym. But now that my life was on the line, I scaled that fence like I was Spider-Man. Thwack, 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 thwack. After I cleared the fence, I ran to the counselor's building to get help. But Rodrigo was totally useless. I didn't feel safe outdoors anymore. So I ran back to our building. Everybody in my family was in the suite when I got there. Pant, pant, pant. We were kind of in a bad spot. I didn't want to leave the room, and and Roderick couldn't be out in the sun anyway. Mom said maybe we should call off the trip and head back home a day early. But Dad said we paid a lot of money for this trip, and he refused to leave the resort until we had at least one decent meal. None of us wanted to eat at an outdoor restaurant because of the stupid birds, and we couldn't eat at the golf clubhouse because we didn't have the clothes for it. Just then, there was a loud crash on the other side of the room. The big suitcase that belonged to somebody else was split open on the floor, and there were clothes everywhere. Whoever this suitcase belonged to must have been a family just like us, because there were clothes in all different sizes. But they weren't just beach clothes. There were also the kind of clothes you'd wear to church or a nice restaurant. I looked at Dad. I could tell he was thinking what I was thinking. These clothes were our ticket to getting into the golf clubhouse. Mom said she didn't feel right about wearing someone else's clothes, but Dad said that after we were done using them, we'd pack everything back up and make sure the suitcase got to the family it belonged to. I think that made Mom feel better. So we started trying things on. The only person who couldn't find clothes that fit was Roderick. But Mom said he needed to stay covered up from the sun anyway. So she gave him a robe and a shirt to put on over it. I gotta say, when we stepped out of our building, we looked pretty sharp. Roderick's outfit even worked in its way. We walked toward the clubhouse, and I kept my eye out for any tweens who might recognize me. But we made it to the restaurant without any run-ins. This time they let us in, and I had the best meal I've eaten in my whole life. Choo-choo, smack, jump, choo. After we finished dessert, none of us really wanted to head back to the room, so we had a little fun on the putting green first. The truth is, my family never has a good time together. So for a second there, I could kind of see how this family vacation thing is supposed to work. But what I've learned is that nothing good ever lasts. A security guard drove up to the putting green in a golf cart, got out, and said we needed to come with him. When Dad asked why, the security guard said that another family at the restaurant had reported us for wearing their clothes. For a second, we didn't know what to do. Then I remembered what I learned back at the airport. When halfleys get in trouble, halfleys run. I got in the driver's seat of the security guard's golf cart. My family piled in, and we took off, leaving the security guard in our dust. But it turns out that a golf cart makes a lousy getaway car, especially if you're climbing a hill. The security guard caught up with us less than a minute later, and I don't think he even broke a sweat. He made us go back to our room and hand the suitcase over to the family it belonged to. We also had to return the clothes we were wearing, and I gotta say, it wasn't our proudest moment. Personally, I think the embarrassment should have been punishment enough. But the security guard said that theft isn't tolerated at the resort, and we had to pack up our bags and leave the grounds immediately. Dad tried to explain what really happened, but this guy wasn't in a listening mood. And once we had all of our stuff packed, he drove us to the airport himself. When we got to the airport, Dad went to our airline customer service desk and told them we needed to fly home a day early. But the customer service lady said that all the flights for the day were sold out, and we were just going to have to wait until the next evening to fly home. That was a problem because we didn't have anywhere to stay for the night. Dad called the airport hotel and they said there was only one room available. So we spent the last night of our vacation in a tiny room, and I had to share a bed with Roderick, who is sticky from popsicle juice. Saturday. When we woke up in the morning, I figured we were in for a long day. Our flight wasn't until 8 p.m., and there was nothing to do at the airport. But at breakfast, Mom and Dad surprised us. They said we were going to go back to the resort for the day. Mom and Dad had talked it over the night before, and neither one of us liked the way things had ended. They decided they wanted to have a do-over and leave on a high note. Mom said the most important thing was that we get that family picture. She said she knew the perfect spot on the beach, and as soon as we got to the resort, we were going to head straight there. I thought the whole thing was a crazy idea because I didn't see how we were even going to get past the front desk. But Dad said he had a plan, and he'd tell us what it was when we got there. We took the free shuttle back to the resort, and we watched that video again. I realized the reason everything looked so fun was because they never showed any actual families. When we got off the bus, Dad told us his master plan to sneak onto the property. And I gotta say, it really wasn't that impressive. Crawl, scoot, scoot, crawl. But it actually worked. Once we got past the lobby, we went to the pool area. There wasn't anyone swimming because they were still filling it. We quickly found out where everyone else was, down at the beach. But it was so crowded, no one looked like they were having any fun. Mom wanted to get the family picture, but she didn't want other people in the shot. So we went to the sand dunes where nobody else would be in the background. But that's where we ran into Roderick's girlfriend, his smooch. I felt kind of bad for Roderick, especially after Mom asked the girl to take our picture with her camera. I'm not sure we're going to be able to use the photo as Christmas card anyway, because Mom usually likes everyone to be smiling in those. After the family picture was out of the way, we went back down to the beach. Roderick was sulking, but the rest of us had fun. We worked up an appetite and we were ready to eat. The problem was the security guard had taken our room keys when he kicked us out of the resort. So we couldn't actually pay for anything. The family in one of the cabanas had some leftover pizza and fries. So we used what we learned from the birds and helped ourselves to some food. Squawk, squawk, hop, hop, gobble, smack, chew, chew, chomp, chew. After that, Dad said we needed to start heading back. Mom wanted to get a few more pictures at the sand dunes before we left, so we went there. But I think we pushed our luck because we ran into some other people. The second that family saw us, they ran off, and I knew they were going to report us to security. So we left the scene as fast as we could. I don't know where the rest of my family went, but I headed toward the beach. I figured there were so many people there, I could just blend in. But when I saw a security guard running toward me, I panicked. I ran into the water and swam to the area where the windsurfers were. I had no idea how to use one of those things, but I thought it was my only shot at escaping. I got on the board and pulled the sail up out of the water. And as soon as the sail was upright, I started moving. I found out the way to steer the thing was by pulling on the big handle that ran across the sail. I figured as long as I was heading away from the beach, I was doing okay. Then a big gust of wind caught the sail, and I didn't have enough strength to steer it the way I wanted it to go. I was moving fast and picking up speed. Up ahead, there were some buoys that marked a roped off area of the water. I pulled back on the handle with all my might, but I couldn't avoid the ropes. I guess there must have been a fin on the bottom of the windsurfer because something got caught on a rope. And when it did, the whole thing tilted over and splashed into the water. I tried to stand the sail back up, but it was hard to do it in the choppy water. Then something brushed my leg and I froze. 2 seconds later, a fin appeared, and then another and another. I was completely surrounded, and I thought I was about to become lunch for a school of sharks. That's when I realized I was in the dolphin enclosure. I was so happy that I forgot all about how I got there. But when a security boat pulled up alongside me, it brought me back to reality. Era justa dona de status. I gave up on the windsurfing and swam for shore. But then the beach was a lot less crowded than I remembered it being a few minutes before. I found out why when I got there. I'd accidentally crossed over to the wild side, and those guys didn't look too happy to see a kid with a camera on their private beach. Now, security guards were coming at me from every direction, and I hightailed it out of there. It wasn't just the security guards who were after me, though. It was the sunbathers, too. I sprinted across the sand into the pool area, which looked a lot like the one on our side, only the pool had water in it. I had a pack of people right behind me, so I jumped over a stone wall and took cover in a cluster of bushes. When I pushed through to the other side, I thought I was in the clear, but then I came smack up against the wall. There was a hole in this part of the wall, and you'd never believe who was on the other side of it. I got my family's attention and told them I needed help. Then I put my fingers in the hole to try to pull the board loose. Dad pushed from the other side, and the whole wall actually opened up a crack, but it wasn't big enough for me to squeeze through. I could hear the security guards on their walkie-talkies right on the other side of the bushes, and I knew I was just a matter of seconds before they found me. So I tried climbing up the wall, but I couldn't get a foothold. Then I saw Roderick's head pop over the top. He reached out his hand, and I jumped to grab it. He started to haul me up, and I thought I might actually make it. But then a 7-legged spider crawled out of Roderick's bathrobe and down my arm, and I lost my grip. Shriek! When I hit the ground, I thought I was done for. But then the section of the wall I was trying to get over came crashing down. I was lucky I didn't get crushed by the stampede pouring in from the mild side. We took advantage of all the confusion and made our way to the exit. There was a security station at the side of the resort, and the only reason we were able to slip past the guards was because of all the craziness going on over at the wild side pool. Once we were off the property, we flagged down a cab and asked the driver to take us to the airport. We hit some turbulence on the flight back, But after everything else we'd been through, a little rough air didn't even faze me. Sunday. It's been a few days since we made it back home, and Mom's already working on the photo album. And from the pictures, you'd think we had a great time. But any chance of us ever going back to the resort is completely gone. I went on the website to show Rowley where I spent my Christmas vacation, and there was a big picture of my family on the home page. I couldn't read the words that went with it, but I'm pretty sure I got the general idea. Attention. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the getaway. And on Wednesday, we're going to start our next book. And let's see. So the next book is The Book Wanderers. It's an audio book. So it's Mr. Lemoncello would love to go book wandering at Pages and Company. If you love books, you're going to love this book. It's an enchanting story about the magic of books and the power of imagination from debut author Anna James. Perfect for fans of Inkheart, The Land of Stories, and Story Thieves. And the line is, since her mother's disappearance, 11-year-old Tilly Page has found comfort in the stories at Page and Company, her grandparents' bookshop. But when her favorite characters, Anne of Green Gables and Alice from Wonderland, start showing up at the shop, Tilly's adventure becomes very real. Not only can she follow Anne and Alice into their books, she discovers that she can book wander into any story she chooses. Tilly's new ability leads her to fun and exciting adventures. A danger may be lurking on the very next page. So that is what we're going to be starting on Wednesday. So I hope you are enjoying Tell a Story. I'm enjoying it. See you on Wednesday. This is Bonnie Baldo from the Panic Public Library, wishing you a healthy and happy day. Goodbye.